Hi, everyone. Welcome to Mom's Writers Club. I am Jessica.
And I'm Sara.
Please give us a quick like and subscribe. It helps us reach more people, and hit the bell and you'll get a notification whenever we post a new video, which is not very often, so it won't be too annoying. Sara, over to you.
Today, we are talking about Jess's new book. The Good Doctor came out on June 14th, available on Amazon. It's awesome. I'm very excited. This is Jess's
Thank you.
third book. I was just showing her something that makes me very happy, which is that I have my very own Jessica Payne library.
It's wild to
Makes me
think that I
very
have three books out
happy.
now.
We have Make Me Disappear, The Lucky One, and now The Good Doctor. So, very excited to talk to Jess about her book today.
I'm excited to talk to you about it. And I will also add, if you are the type of person who likes signed copies, you can also get a signed copy from Browser's Bookshop in Olympia.
Yes. At the very end, we'll talk about like ways that you can get this book and all the cool things. So we'll remind you. So tell us about this book, Jess. What's it about?
I would love to. Well, a long time ago, I like for the first time in my life heard about medical serial killers, and I was working, or I had been working as a nurse up to that, and it kind of like blew my mind because medical serial killers have existed all throughout history for like hundreds of years, thousands of years, and I always just thought it was like wild and messed up, but also like a fascinating thing. And I wondered about people's state of mind and why they would do that kind of thing. And I always thought it might be kind of interesting to write a book that's centered around a medical serial killer. That said, this book is not like a serial killer book. It is a domestic suspense psychological thriller that happens to have a streak of medical serial killer in it. It is about Chloe, and she is a travel nurse, and she has been traveling the country with her handsome fiance Elton for several years, but they are ready to be adults now. They are going to settle down. They bought a house. They have brand new jobs at a fancy hospital. They are even thinking about getting a dog, and they're like ready to start their new lives. And she could not be happier. But on her first day of work, she walks in and sees none other than her ex-husband standing across the room. And not just any ex-husband, but one that she shares deep, dark secrets with. The things that he knows about her, the things that they did together, could utterly destroy her new life with Elton, her fiance. And she is scared that he is going to tell Elton these secrets. But even worse, she's scared that he is still hurting people. And she's kind of caught because she doesn't want to lose her chance at a new life with Elton. But she also knows that he's hurting people. And to top it all off and make it so much worse, she is still a little bit in love with this guy, with this awful, horrible person. And it makes it that much more complicated.
So that was going to be my next question because that's like one of the really fascinating things about this book to me is so his name is Jameson. I don't remember if we said that.
I don't think I mentioned
So not only is Jameson her first or her ex-husband, but he was like the love of her life. They were like, it was like a passionate love affair. Like, you are the one,
that. Mhm.
till death do us part kind of shit. And now, she still like feels a little bit of that, even though she knows he's kind of like a monster.
Yeah.
So talk about, I don't know, talk about that. What was it like writing that? What was it?
So my editor called this book Grey's Anatomy, but with murder. And I thought that was a really great way to put it because so having to do with Jameson and Chloe's relationship with Jameson and their history and then being kind of torn apart, but now like being forced to work in close proximity. I loved the dramatic relationships in Grey's Anatomy. And this has some of that, where there's that like tension in between the characters. It just happens to be that she thinks he's killing people in this book. It was really fun to write. I knew what their past relationship was like, and we've all like come across an ex-boyfriend or something, or somebody that we like had a crush on in high school, or something weird like that. And I think some of us have also had the experience where we realize that there is some of that lingering emotion still there. And I wanted to write that into this because it makes it fun and playful and fucked up and complicated,
Right.
like, and
Right.
that's how real relationships are. Now, given you probably are not assuming your ex-husband is killing people most
Well,
of the time.
that's, yeah, that's what I was going to say. Like when we
Yeah.
have that sort of lingering feeling, like, oh, that like wistfulness, it's not, we're not like, oh, but he's a murderer, you know?
Yeah. No, I
Yeah.
know.
Luckily for us, but
Yeah, so it's
that's
interesting,
why we
right?
read this stuff in books.
Yeah, it was definitely walking like a tightrope, like wanting to show that emotion, but also show that like Chloe recognizes that this is like a messed up way to feel. And also she's in love with her fiance Elton. Like she wants to be with Elton, but now she's working one-on-one with her ex-husband, who by the way is killing people, but she kind of loves him. And anyway, it's just really fun. And it adds to the psychological thriller element in a way that I really like. And it also puts a little bit of like um dark, twisty romance in it, a little bit similar to Verity, I think.
Hmm.
Although it's been
Hmm.
a few years since I read Verity, but I loved how that was done in Verity, and I tried to do something a little bit similar in this. And yeah, I think it worked really well. People have given me positive feedback, and I can't tell you what they said because it's a spoiler, but it's been
Yeah.
really fun to get the like DMs about it.
Yeah. No spoilers in this episode. So that was one of my favorite things about this book. What are some of your favorite things about this book?
I love that part of it too. Like the I don't know what to call it. It's not exactly a romance. Isn't like the opposite of hero. Okay, not the opposite, but it's like anti-hero. It's like an
Yeah.
anti-romance. Is that a
Right,
thing?
right. Yeah, yeah.
The anti-romance was really fun to write. And there's a scene. I'll tell you about some of my favorite scenes without giving any spoilers.
Yeah.
At one point, Chloe and Jameson have to go out to do some business-like bonding. So they go to a bar, and it was really fun to write that bar. It's like a bar that is actually the bar where I met my husband. It's like very similar to it. And then there's another scene. This is gonna maybe be too vague for the people out there watching this, but there's a scene where there's a wall between two people, and that was my absolute. If you've read the
Oh,
book, you know
yeah.
what I'm talking
Hmm.
about. It was
I
like
remember that scene.
it was such a fun scene to write, and it's lots of short chapters, and like I just flew through those chapters. They were so much fun. Like the twist that happens in there, and all the realizations around it. And it totally flips the whole book on its head. And anyway, when you read the book, if you haven't already, you will know exactly what I'm talking about. And yeah, I loved writing that scene. It was really fun to write this. So part of this book is based in the hospital, and before I worked in the NICU, worked in an adult cardiovascular unit. So it was kind of fun to dig into my experience with that and talk about like how that really is. And yeah, I mean, and then there were some like less bright moments, like physician assisted suicide is mentioned in this book, and having to research that and really understand how it worked because I wanted to like represent it well. That was like a harder thing to do. But yeah, this book was a lot of fun to write. It was a hard book to write to get it the way I wanted it to be, but I think I did. I think I got it there.
Yeah. Yeah. All those, I always think as a person who does not write thrillers or suspense, like I always think that writing those twists and finally nailing those twists must be so much fun.
It is.
I imagine you must just like surprise yourself, Must be
Well,
like,
being like
oh
at
my
least
God.
a partial pantser, yeah. When you come up with the twist at the last second is like the most exciting thing. It's like a total adrenaline rush.
Right, right. And then that feeling of like, I know all this stuff, but my reader is not going to know
Yeah.
any of this stuff. So that
Yep.
seems like so much fun. So, talk to me about the editorial process for this book. So,
Oh, how much time?
I know.
So I wrote this book really
Take your
fast.
time.
And so I was thinking about this, and I don't remember if you and I discussed it or not, but I write really fast. And people are always amazed by that, but don't be, because it often means I end up rewriting a big portion of the book. So I wrote this book in like maybe 10 weeks, give or take. But then I realized I had to rewrite the first half of it. And rewriting the first half of it was really hard because I could kind of tell something was wrong. Part of it was the plotting, and part of it was not this was one book where it took me a long time to get to know my character, and I actually changed her name after the first
Oh
draft
yeah,
because I
that's right.
felt like something about the name was keeping me from connecting with her, because my original
Mm,
intent for this book was a little different than how I ended up taking it. So I changed the name. Sara got on the phone with me and we chatted for about 2 hours, and I made scene cards for the whole book, trying to like see it like in a bird's eye view. Did I say that right? You know what I mean.
mm-hmm.
And I'm not someone who usually makes scene cards, but I made scene cards for every single chapter in this book. And I also had to like code them by present tense and past tense because
Mm.
it's dual timeline. And it's also dual point of view, which, by the way, I don't know if I'll ever do that again, but it was fun. And
Dual
oh,
timeline and dual point of view.
yeah, yeah, because
Yeah.
Jameson gets a few chapters of his own there as well. So I really had to like look at it and see like what chapters did I really need to have there and which ones were me kind of telling myself the story, but it didn't
Mm.
actually need to stay there for the reader to make the book like good. So it was, I think I spent as long editing just by myself before it went back to my agent, before my editor even saw it, as I did writing. So
Mm.
I don't know. I get that question a lot. How long did it take you to write the book? And I almost feel like I should include that editing time, because there's a saying that writing is revising, and it's so true.
Yeah.
Like you can't say that like the revising is part of the writing. And like now that I have more experience, I truly think that to be the case. And it was
Yeah.
definitely the case with this book. This book, but when it went to my editor, it was in pretty good shape. So, it's a little bit easier to get through like the developmental edit with her and the line edit.
Yeah, that's really sort of the Pantsers plot hole. That no, the Pantsers pothole, pothole,
I'm
pothole.
spilling on myself and you can't talk today.
I can't talk.
My water
Um,
bottle is leaking too, so my lap is just covered in water and Tino.
we're so charming. Um, no, the Pantsers pothole is that thing of telling yourself the story. That part of the first draft is telling yourself the story and telling yourself about the characters.
Yeah.
And I always feel like those are the chunks that I'm taking out in later drafts,
Yeah, for sure.
or that I'm dramatizing instead of summarizing, or yeah, or that feel repetitive or whatever. Like that's the tricky thing.
You know what I did to so when I went to start my next book after this book, I was very aware I really did not want to rewrite half the book again. And I started thinking about like what my biggest weakness in the rough draft with this was. And I already said it, like I didn't know my main character well enough, which is odd for me because usually that's something I feel like is my strength. Like in Make Me Disappear, I really knew Noelle. In The Lucky One, I really knew my main character as well. And I just didn't know Chloe super well. So before I started writing the next book, I went through Story Genius twice, the book Story Genius by Lisa Cron, and it helped so much. The process was so much smoother. I'm still revising that one, but
Yeah.
it just reminded me that I needed to do that work up front if I wanted
Yeah.
to avoid doing it on the back end.
Right. Well, that's funny because I've been trying to do the same thing with the book I'm
Mhm.
working on now in a slightly different way. Like I've been trying to just not make the same mistake that made it so that my last two books took me forever to write, and that I wound up rewriting the whole book for
But
both of
isn't it
them.
funny that you realize that some of that isn't a mistake? It's just your writing
It's
process.
just my process. Yeah. It's not, it has basically taken me a year and a half and 100,000 words to write four good chapters.
But they're so good.
And now I know what I'm doing. But also, but also this, I think some characters are just different. Do you feel like, I just feel like this character that I'm working with is more guarded and harder to get to know.
Yeah, I agree. I think Chloe was that way for me. But I still think that you know who I'm talking about. The character in my next book was
Hmm.
also very guarded, but I spent more time understanding like what had happened in the past to affect the present, and that helped. But who knows if it would have actually helped in this book or not.
Right,
I agree
right,
that characters are different and they need to be and they should be, otherwise they don't feel like a different person than from your last main character.
right, right. But some of them, maybe it's going to take that extra, like that extra work up front to be like, no, 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 I need to know more about you
Yeah.
before we start this thing together. You know?
Yeah, something else that was different about this book is this was my option book,
Mm,
and there was some like I felt some amount of pressure to like have a good plot line worked out ahead of time because I had to
mm-hmm,
write a synopsis, which I never
mm-hmm.
write synopses before I start writing a book typically.
Right.
So it was my first time really understanding the plot before I understood the character. And
Mm.
with the book after this, I went back to my normal way of doing it because I had a contract for it already and really understood the character before, because character leads to
Interesting.
plot. Anyway,
Yeah.
it's just funny to think about it.
Okay, so you had an interesting little dog leg in
Doug.
coming in coming up with a final title for this book. So tell us about that.
So this book was originally titled something else. I actually have a copy of, I have an image of a very similar cover, almost identical, but they made some changes with a totally different title on it. And one time I accidentally posted it
Oh, you
instead
did?
of, yes. And I was like, oh, that's not the right title. But what had happened? So we like had the title and we're like a month out from publication. It must have been a little longer because I think my cover reveal was 4 or 5 weeks up. So it must have been a little before that, but we were working up toward it. And it had like taken a while to get the title and the cover and like the cover copy, and like it had just taken a while to get everything finalized for various reasons. So it was like finally ready to go. And I get on NetGalley and I am staring at a book with the same title that my book had. And
By an author in the same genre,
in the same genre, like someone I would be
like
directly.
on NetGalley. And if you don't know about NetGalley, those
Yeah.
are books that are just about to be released.
And this book is coming out 3 weeks before mine. And I'm like, oh, fuck.
Right.
So I like type, I never use the word urgent in the title in the subject line to my agent or editor because like I've never like had a reason to urgently email either of them. And
But
I'm
this
like,
was urgent. Yeah.
urgent issue about the title. And anyway, they came back very quickly and it ended up, now it's kind of funny, and I actually love this title. I actually think this title is better fitting for the book, but yeah, we had like an oh crap moment and like had to quickly change the title, and like the background, I don't know if you can see it, like this is all medical. It was not
Yeah, it's a
medical
hospital
before.
bed and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, my cover designer, I'm trying to remember her name. I thanked her in my acknowledgments, but I'm blanking on it. She did such a good job. She came back, she took the original version of it, and her name is Eileen Carey, and she took the original version of it and like just like tilted it a little bit to like give it more of a to make the title fit a little bit better with the cover. And they did a fantastic job with it, and I really like the new title. So it ended up being great. But it was just like,
Like,
of course, like
oh,
I had to rewrite half the book, and now the title has to change. Thankfully, we hadn't had a cover reveal yet, but like we were about to schedule the cover reveal. Like they probably already had done like the graphics they send over for that. Anyway, all is well that ends well.
yeah, I'm so glad that they had this great title in their back pocket to
Yeah, me too.
quickly swap out because I mean, we both know that coming up with a good title, even with, a team of amazing publishing professionals all working on it, is still really hard,
Yeah.
to really nail the title. And I think this title's great. I love
Yeah,
it.
I really like it. I think it fits the book well, and it just worked out well. And I'm really impressed with what the cover designer did as well.
Yeah, and
So it was
so
nice
I
to,
saw the, sorry, go ahead.
yeah. It's just nice to see how quickly the team could pivot to make it be okay and have it not be a problem. We didn't
Yeah,
have to delay publication or anything.
right. And I really like the cover even better
Yeah, me
now
too.
than, I mean, it's not that different from the last one. Jess showed me the last one and and then this came out and I was like, oh yeah, much better.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. Okay, so this is your third book.
Mm-hmm.
For those of you who have joined us recently, Jess and I have been um, have we been doing these episodes since before we were agented?
No, we started them right after we both signed. Like I signed
Right.
and you signed, and I think I
Very
signed
shortly
in
after.
February and you signed in like March, and
Hmm.
we started recording in April and launched in May for Mother's Day.
Right. So that was 2 years ago. That was
Yes.
20, is that 2021?
2021. And then
Okay.
Moms
Okay.
Writers Club itself has been around for a year to 18 months longer than that.
Yeah. Okay. Gotcha. Um, anyway, just kind of blowing my mind that like Jess
Right?
now has 3 books
I know. It's
out.
kind of blowing my mind too.
We
And I
and
have
we became friends and we're like text messaging each other like, a year before we had signed or anything. And
yeah, texting about rejections.
oh my
Like for the
God.
people out there who are still querying and you have that friend who like you're going through the query trenches together. Like we did that and here we
Yeah.
are and you can
Yeah.
do it.
It's just really like it's just really awesome. Okay. So third book.
Hmm.
What's different about releasing your third book, going through the whole process with your third book, everything? How's that different than your first book?
Well, with your first book, you're doing everything for the first time. You are having a call with your editor and signing a contract and going through all the rounds of editing and asking all the questions and figuring out how things work. And then with your second book, I feel like there's still some stuff that's new or maybe issues that didn't come up the first time. But by the time you get to your third book, like I kind of knew what was going to happen. I knew that I was going to get all my various rounds of edits, and I've been working with the same copy editor and proofreader. So I like kind of knew who they were, and it was fun seeing their name. Um, I know my publicist fairly well at this point, and I knew when I'd be getting like emails from her and what they'd be doing to help promote the book. I guess it just feels almost like I have a vague idea what I'm doing now,
Yeah. Yeah.
which is cool. I did the launch group again, and it's really fun to like have made relationships with bookstagrammers and get to like come back and be like, hey, I have another book coming out. So that was really fun and just feeling kind of in some ways more confident. But
Hmm.
at the same time, sometimes I feel like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I did rewrite half the book. I felt like I didn't know what I was doing. Um, so some of it never changes.
That part never changes.
Yeah.
That like, oh fuck, I don't know what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
I I thought I knew what I was doing and I really don't. Really don't.
There's this book that just came out by Chuck Wendig. It's called Gentle Writing Advice. And I got a copy of it. And there's a chapter in it that is just hilarious. And it's basically like just when I thought I knew how to write it, like basically he talks about how every time he sits down to write a book, he's like, I have no fucking clue how to write a book. And it's true. Like he's
Yeah.
written like 20 books and he still
Hmm.
feels that way. And I really appreciate that, like someone as
I know.
experienced as he is can still feel that way.
I know. It's reassuring because that's
Yeah.
definitely what I feel like right now. This is number 3 or number 5, depending on how you're counting. And I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I have no fucking idea how to do this. This isn't going to
Yeah.
work. I can't do just, I'm just going to give it up. No, I'm not.
No, you're
But
not.
one of the things I was thinking while you were talking about what's different is what a big difference it makes to know all the people, right? Like, this is your third book with this editor and the copy editor and publicist. And I'm just wrapping up edits on my second book with my editor. And it just gets so much easier when you feel like you know the person a little bit. You've established what your rapport is with that person, how you communicate. Um, I feel like the first time around, and you've gotten to know your agent better too.
Yeah.
I felt like the first time around, I was like, I don't really know this person. What am I allowed to say or not say? Or I don't know, not allowed, but
I get
just
it.
like how's it gonna be? Like, how are things gonna work between us? And now like with my editor, now I know her better. I've had dinner with her. There's just a level of anxiety that's not there anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I get what you mean. I feel like with my publicist and I, like we kind of know what to expect from one another. Like when I have someone on the launch team, I need her to send another arc to. Like I don't have to write a whole email explaining what's going on. I can just it's like a quick email, like, hey, can you send them one too?
Yeah.
Or like my agent and I can exchange emails that are like 2 or 3 words.
Yeah.
because we're both busy, and like that communicates effectively for us.
Yeah.
The other thing I was thinking of that I wanted to say is on my third book, I feel like I have a better idea, like with it coming out, on what I want to dedicate time to and what feels
Mm.
worth
Yeah.
dedicating time to as far as like the marketing aspect. And I'm not going to like go into detail on that because I think it's going to be different for everyone. Like what is
Yeah.
helpful or good for me is not going to be what's helpful or good for you. But as far as like what I'm asking people to do to help me or who I'm reaching out to for different things, and it's kind of nice because I felt like with my first book, I tried to do everything, you know? So I feel like it's not as stressful in a way because
Yeah.
of that. So yeah, that's been really good. So
Okay.
one other very cool thing. So my publisher they do paperback, but they are digitally focused. And so most of the books that I publish with Book Tour sell on Amazon. And one really interesting part of that is like, so if like for Sara, she has to wait 6 months more, give or take to see how her book is doing. But one cool thing about my publisher is that we can see pretty quickly how things are doing based on if people are clicking on the link on advertisements and then buying, or if they're not buying, because that'll like give you some insight into like, is the cover working? Is the title working? Is the cover copy working? And the cover copy is like the summary of the book, stuff like that, which means you can also adjust it really quickly, which is very cool. So one of the ways that we can kind of see how the book is doing is based on the Amazon charts. And in case you're not as aware about it, Amazon lets you pick out different up to 10 categories, I think. And this is stuff my publisher does for me. If you're self-published, you're doing this for yourself, but like 10 categories that your book fits in. So like my book is a thriller, but it can also be a psychological thriller and a woman sleuth and murder, like it's in the murder category, and serial killer because there's a medical serial killer, and medical thriller because it's a medical thriller. So it can be in all of those categories. But they rank books based off of how well they're selling and how many reads that those books are getting on like Kindle Unlimited, for example. So we can see based off of those numbers how well my book is doing. And that's been really interesting to watch. And this book, The Good Doctor, has gotten a #1 new release in a couple of different categories now, which is just really fun. And you get like the orange flag. So it got it for medical thriller, and also for just last night, actually, for murder, which I always feel weird bragging, like, oh, my book's the #1 new release in murder.
Murder.
It seems so.
You're the #1 in murder.
But it's also cool because you get to like, you can see very quickly how your book is doing. Like, and if the prologue's working, like with Kindle Unlimited reads, you can see if people are starting to read it and continuing, or if they're starting to read it and then not continuing. And then you can make changes based off of that if need be. So the Amazon charts are like this very complex web of stuff that I don't completely understand, but it is really fun to get to watch that and see how it goes up and goes down. It can be a little bit like wearing, and that you shouldn't watch it too much because it's going to be anxiety.
Right.
So I'm not saying that I recommend watching that, but it's
Right.
also kind of an interesting part of like more like if you are published with Penguin Random House, this will not work for you because a lot of your books are also selling in bookstores, and there's no way to count that until 6 months later. So like, but with a digitally focused publisher, it is kind of an interesting way to kind of watch it. And I didn't know that until I started working with them. So I just thought I'd share that with everyone.
Right. I am feeling very envious of all the real-time data that Jess is getting right now because I'm in that other category where I have no clue. Like I really don't. I have no idea how my book is doing, and it's been out for 4 months. So
I can't believe your book's been out for 4 months.
I know, isn't that crazy?
It's 4 months old. It might be sleeping through the night now. Probably not, but it could be.
I'm gonna start it on solid food soon.
Aww.
Oh,
Okay, let's have a mom moment. So everybody was like, yeah, your kid's going to be sleeping through the night by like 3, 4 months. 1 year. 1 fucking year. It
oh
took
my
her a
God, yeah.
year. And
Yeah.
until 6 months, she was eating twice overnight.
They're all different, just like books.
Oh, that's so cute.
So what's next for you?
Well, my next book is coming out in March, and I've started edits with my editor on that one. So that's really fun. And I'm trying to think of what I can tell you about the book. It's very briefly about a woman who learns about another woman's murder and decides to infiltrate the lives of the people she believes murdered her. So she like worms her way into their lives, and it's kind of fun and creepy and dark. And anyway, I'm very excited for it. Our tentative publication date is March 11th. We'll see if that changes at all.
And where can people find your book and find out more about you?
Yeah, so the best place to go is jessicapayne.net, or if you go to my Instagram, which is jessicapayne.writer, you can go to my link tree in my profile, and it has a link to buy signed copies of all of my books. It has the link for Amazon. It's also available in audiobook and paperback. And you can find my website there and all of my social media, of which I'm on like everything, although I don't post to TikTok very often. And does anybody still use Hive? I don't think so.
I
But
haven't been.
anyway, I'm on Instagram and Twitter and Facebook, and those are all great places to stay updated with what's going on with me.
The signed copies of Jess's book are so cute because they come from Browser's Bookstore, which she mentioned in the beginning, and they wrap them up in this little brown paper, a little stamp, and a little piece of twine, and
It's so
so
cute.
cute. Yeah.
I know. I actually need to get some books from them, and even though I could drive there, I'm thinking about just having them shipped to me because I want this like brown paper package to like show up in my mailbox, and I want to I know that's so dumb, but they also ship with like true media mail costs, which I really appreciate. So I like feel like I could afford to do that. I was trying to order from this other bookstore the other day, and I know they have other costs, but their media mail shipping was like $9 for one book, and I was like,
Yeah.
I know how much it costs to ship one paperback, and it's like $3.86. So why are you charging me $9?
Yeah.
But Browser's Bookshop doesn't do that. They charge what it actually costs, and anyway, they're great. I highly recommend going there. Well, thank you everyone for listening to me chat about my book. It is out now, and I hope you grab a copy. Let me know if you do and tag me on social media. I love that. Yeah.
Be sure to leave a review. It's very
Yeah.
important
It
to
helps
leave
so
reviews
much.
for the books that you read. It's a big deal for authors.
We should do an episode on that,
Yeah.
just on that. Anyway, join us for our every other Wednesday night chats, and join us for more episodes here on YouTube. We are available on Twitter. I'm at author Jess Payne.
And I am at Sara Reed, author.
And we'll talk to you next time. Bye.